All right, so as unfortunate as it is, the original audio was a little bit muted. So I decided to go back in and just dub over top of it and retell you what I was telling you here. Kind of messes up the first reaction a bit, but still better than not being able to hear what's being said. More or less, we're going to talk about new scary stories to read in the dark. So, the background, how did I come across it? Which is what you're seeing me talk about, even though the words aren't matching up with what I'm saying. Don't worry, I'll pop some stuff up on the screen to try to make it a little less distracting that my lips don't match my words. So, let's actually pop the book up in front of my face, and there we go. I came across it in a bunch of TikTok videos, kind of like I did the book House of Leaves, and I was looking for recommendations for horror stories because it's been a long time since I read something horror based. And this one was consistently recommended in top 10 and top 5 lists. It was never top 10, like never number 1, but it was consistently recommended as like number 5. And when I was a kid, I really loved the whole scary stories to read in the dark series, or the scary stories to tell in the dark series, I mean. So I got kind of excited when I saw it. So I ordered a physical copy to use for the video, and I was a little bit surprised when it came in, and it turned out it's only 109 pages. I didn't pay any attention when I was checking out. I just didn't figure someone would have made a review where they put it in the top 5 and not mention, oh yeah, it's only 109 pages long. But whatever. Still was excited because clearly it was trying to pay some homage to the book from when I was a kid. And so I've got to work reading it shortly after recording this. Looking forward to it, keeping it a little bit on the skeptical side given the fact that it never really popped up as a number 1. But people were putting it in lists with things like Nightmares and Dreamscapes. So I've got high hopes for it. I think it'll turn out well. I've seen some stuff saying that it's kind of body horror-ish, which, since I started with Clive Barker, I'm ready for it. Let's get into it and see how it is. So, halfway through, what do I think so far? It has its moments. At this point, I would actually say that there's a lot of potential for it to be significantly scarier. There's definitely points where it builds up good tension. Now, it doesn't really pay off on them all that much. Let's see. First story, The Well, was a good one. That was actually kind of an interesting twist on the whole sort of monkey's paw mechanic. Not really the same story, but you can kind of see that inspiration in it. The Box, an interesting story, but it seemed like a cutscene out of a video game more than anything else. Um, the Box had some elements of what you'd call strange fiction. So H.P. Lovecraft, which if you've browsed my channel at all, you should know I'm pretty familiar with him at this point. But that was a fun sort of adventure to go on, but still not really scary, but interesting. The Mannequin, that one was different. Still good, but different, and that seems to be kind of the running theme so far. I will say so far the horror in this seems to be largely body horror. So if you enjoy things like Clive Barker and whatnot, you'll enjoy this. It's not been overly brutal so far. I guess I'll find out in the last couple stories whether or not it actually gets any more intense in terms of the body horror. I don't think it's as scary as I saw a lot of people make it. It made it onto a lot of top 5, top 10 lists, but it was usually around somewhere like the 5 or 6 mark. And I'll be honest, if you were putting this as one of your top scary books of all time, unless you're someone that starts out explaining that books just don't tend to scare you that much, I would say it is interesting. It's well written so far. And there's some moments of tension, but it's not particularly scary. It would be a fun thing, from even just what I've read so far, it would be a fun thing to pick up for, I don't know, a middle schooler or a high school student. It seems to be aimed in that sort of level of stories. They're good. They have some maturity to them. So 100% would not put them in the same category as something like Goosebumps. Goosebumps shoots at a much younger audience than this does. So Probably don't give it to an elementary school student, although I would have probably read it in elementary school. We'll see. There's more to it, and the last story seems to be a bit longer than the other ones, and the one general feeling that I've gotten so far is that the author has been pretty good at establishing tension, but it seems like he really needs more space, or she. I honestly don't know if that's a he or a she. He or she needs more space to really develop a really tense and actually intense story. So we'll see. Maybe that last one will hook me into it and I'll actually look and see how many more works they have. Because I do kind of feel like a longer book from them or a longer story in general would probably be really well written and actually have some good stories. So most of the stories so far have been so short that it's been hard to really develop anything in them in terms of serious action or serious scares. So the length seems to be the only thing really keeping it from actually getting to the point where I would actually consider it scary. There's a lot of potential, but so far it's not living up to the potential. Just finished new scary stories to read in the dark. So, final impressions, let's just go through the last couple stories, one at a time like I did the first half, and see. I don't know if I mentioned it in the last one. Toothache was interesting, just to read you the summary. Patients at a local dental clinic are dying in shocking ways. One woman digs into the mystery and wishes she hadn't. It was an interesting twist, but the story itself sort of... There's a few things in it that are questionable in terms of the believability. Like, there's supposed to be a police officer that's obsessed with the thing that's going on, and they'd give him a decent reasoning in the backstory. But it still seems odd that this woman just took the dude at his word and did some investigating for him without any real evidence that the guy was actually telling the truth. I don't know. There's some weird leaps in it that just don't make a lot of sense. So I was in the middle of editing and realized that I didn't actually say anything about the story The Invertebrate. It didn't leave enough of an impression that I noticed I was skipping it when I was going over the review, if that says anything. It's not terrible, but it's really almost like the introduction to a fantasy book. It's so... I don't know, it's not bad. It leans into some of the theories that I'm getting ready to talk about towards the end of the next section. Or not the next section, but when I get to The Girl Who Lived. So, hold on to your seats for just a minute. The Natural High. 3 teens find berries that make them feel euphoric, but what happens when the high wears off? Interesting story, good sort of anti-drug message, although a touch unrealistic. I've only known a handful of people that were as adventurous with drugs as the 3 teenagers were in this story, and most of them would have seen some warning signs pretty early on. Still, interesting story, interesting way for it to go. That one wasn't bad. But then the last thing that's listed, The Girl Who Lived. This is apparently an introduction to a longer story that the author wrote, but I believe instead of saying R.J. Lawrence, he switched to calling himself Ray Lawrence. I did not like it. Didn't really like it at all. The characters were stereotypes of what you would expect. Typical sort of eat the rich type of story where the rich people end up being just completely morally bankrupt. Which, yeah, there's some reflection to that in reality, but not to the extreme that story was taking it out to be. And there was nothing in it that was really horror, other than, I mean, there's some psychological things in it. It's an interesting exploration into what might be seen as some of the unspoken power dynamics between men and women, where women may feel pressure to do things that they don't want to do, and some unexpected pressure being put on the main character. The problem is the particular situation presented. It presents the main character as if she's super important, like she's key to some discovery that they're supposed to be making. And it's just, give it away because it gives it away very quickly early on, she's somehow the key researcher in figuring out how to make basically wealthy people immortal. but the main guy that's taking her out decides to try to viciously assault her and seems like he's getting ready to target her to be a kill, which wouldn't make any sense if he legitimately thought she was the key person to help him figure out the secret to immortality. Like, there's some pretty stupid villains out there, but that's just an incredibly ignorant thing for a villain to do. Like, who in their right mind would help someone that violated them and abused them become immortal? It's. I looked up the main book, like the novels from that series, and there was one comment made on one of them that really sort of struck home and actually made me start really contemplating these stories again overall. And it was that someone made the comment, this whole thing kind of seemed AI written. I don't think all of the short stories in this were written by AI. Some of them are actually pretty good, but I can definitely see the longer story coming off that way, because AI is very good at taking prompts and turning them into things, but AI tends to just go based off of the most sort of extremes. That's how weak that last story was. The first several were pretty good. It's kind of structured in an opposite way for what you would normally think an anthology series would be, where the stronger stories are actually at the beginning and the weaker ones are at the end. I bought this one to get the print edition to have for the video. If you're interested in reading it, which I would say this is a mid-level book. Not because all of the stories in it are mid-level, but nothing really scared me. Nothing really made me super nervous. There was some moments where tension was building, so there's some foundations there, which is what got me to looking into seeing if he had other full-length novels, because I thought, at least when I first started reading through this stuff, that in a full-length book he might be able to actually generate enough tension to make it become scary. But the last section in it, the sample for what would become a 5-novel series, it really turned me away from wanting to read any of his full-length books. So, do I give this one a recommend? Sure. If you like horror and you've burned through a lot of the other stuff that you have, and you want something relatively thin and quick to read, then yeah, buy the Kindle version. You can read it on your Kindle in a day, more than likely. Took me time, got a lot of things going on. By the way, kudos to all of the book talkers and book reviewers on YouTube that manage to churn out like 4 or 5 book reviews in a month. Bravo to you. I have no idea how you do that. Video games, not that bad to put out a whole bunch of videos on. Books, I'm going to do it because I want to do it. I enjoy reading. But they're going to take me a lot longer than being able to churn out more than one every couple weeks. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, would I recommend it? The Kindle version, sure. That one is only $3. And for $3, even if it is AI assisted, it's not so bad that I would feel bad for throwing away $3. That being said, this one left me with a mediocre enough impression that I don't think I would dedicate the time to reading a full-length book of his. Which is disappointing. I saw it pop up enough on enough different lists that I thought this would be something fun to read. Now it's making me rethink the channels that recommended that and whether or not the stuff that they're recommending is actually all that scary. There's some body horror in it, but if you've ever watched a decent number of horror movies, like, okay, if you know what the movie Martyrs is, nothing in this book is going to bother you. Like, there's nothing in here on the scale of something like Martyrs. New scary stories to tell in the dark. Go with Kindle. Next on my list is House of Leaves. Almost finished with it. So that one probably take a little bit longer to finish up than this one because it's 5 times the length. But I'm more than halfway through it. And it's, while I'm having some struggles with it, they're for a completely different reason. And it's not due to the quality of the book as a mild spoiler. It's a very good book. Anyway, have a good night, and I'll see you in the next go-round.